What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a double exposure experiment that I did with the Harman EZ35 camera. So, a few weeks ago, I did a video reviewing the Harman EZ35 camera. It is a reusable, disposable camera that shoots at f/stop 11, and 100 shutter speed, so 1/100th of a second. Pretty basic, pretty rudimentary. It's meant to imitate a disposable camera, which is why it's called or referred to as a reusable disposable camera on the packaging. Overall, I don't think it's much different from a disposable camera, except it's significantly more expensive and you can use it more than once. But that's all of the stats I'm gonna give you for this, because I did already review this camera. So go check out that review if you're interested in what it's like to shoot with this. Today's video is going to be about whether or not you can do double exposure with this camera successfully. And the answer to that is kind of. So I shot this experiment on Kodak Gold. It's a 200 ISO film. So I figured anything like 100, 200 ISO would probably be okay in this camera. And I was right, it seemed to expose pretty well. I shot 2 rolls, double exposure. So the first roll that I shot had 36 exposures on it. And the second roll that I shot had 24 exposures on it. Before this camera, I had never shot double exposure before. This was my first film camera and my second experience shooting in film. The first roll of double exposure that I shot was my third roll that I ever shot on this. For those of you who don't know, just really quick, double exposure is when you expose a roll of film. So you take all the pictures on a roll of film and then you rewind that film and then you re-spool it and you shoot with it again over top of the pictures that you already took. And what happens is the areas that are underexposed in the second image get filled in with the first image. So generally speaking, you want to take a whole roll of texture photos. So like darker things like flowers, gravel, things that don't have a lot of like really bright areas in them. And then the second time around, when you shoot over top the same roll, you want to be shooting silhouettes. So things with a lot of bright space, because that's going to completely wash out the first picture. And then a lot of dark space, that's when the first picture is going to come through. So I'm not sure if I'm explaining it super well. You have the silhouette of the second shot that gets filled in with the texture from the first shot. So textures first, silhouette second. And because this is my first time ever shooting double exposure, you know, I've tried it digitally on my camera, but it's a little bit different. I just kind of went with that rule. So the first roll that I shot, I was extremely meticulous about it. I shot all texture shots, some flowers, some gravestones, some grass, some sand, all of this. And I wrote down each texture that I shot in like a numerical list. I'll show you here. And I also took a picture on my cell phone of each shot so I would know if it was like a horizontal or vertical composition and like where the boundaries were, so that I would know exactly what it was going to look like when I imposed a silhouette over top of it. Hypothetically. See, this would have worked, but this is a toy camera. It doesn't necessarily always spool the film through in the same way. So a lot of the pictures that I took, it slipped a couple times. My meticulous planning actually was to my own detriment. Reason being, so for a photo, for example, I took a texture of a sign that said COVID-19 vaccination clinic. And then that was my texture. And then the silhouette that I wanted to impose over top was a group of people all lined up wearing masks. And I had a bunch of people who were willing to pose wearing masks lined up. So I got like a nice silhouette of that. What I didn't plan on was the fact that this camera spools, like sometimes it'll take the photo and then the film just won't move. So it'll take another photo over top and then the entire roll gets set back one. So I got to the end of this roll, re-spooled it, started shooting again, got to the end again, and then it shot another photo and another photo and another photo. And it turns out that I was 7 photos off. So, you know, for each texture on my list, I had the perfect silhouette for it. And I went down that list and I was like, okay, what texture's next? Okay, the next texture is sand. Okay, so I'm gonna have a silhouette of somebody on the beach. And then I would like match each silhouette that I took to the texture photo that was on the roll already, that I had documented and taken a photo of and everything. And once I got to the end of that list, having carefully matched up each silhouette photo with each texture photo, I had 7 photos left over. And so it was off by 7 in some parts of the roll. So meticulously planning it out like that did not work. And so for the second roll that I shot, I was just like, all right, whatever, let's just let's just go ham. I'm not gonna record any of it. I'm not gonna be meticulous at all. I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind, shoot just a bunch of random textures, and shoot just a bunch of random silhouettes. I didn't do anything that would be specific, you know? Like, I didn't take pictures of any signs or any silhouettes that would be like out of context if they didn't have the perfect texture, because I just assumed that the textures and silhouettes were not going to line up. So the second time through was a little bit disappointing because some of them just didn't, I don't know what happened, honestly, but the last like 6 or 7 on the roll were just the silhouettes that I had taken and didn't have the textures that I had taken at all. So I did take 24 textures with this. I didn't record what they are, but there was just like a bunch at the end of the roll that, I mean, they're cool photos, but I took a bunch of these, and I knew that at the end of this roll, I had taken like 10 photos in a graveyard, so a bunch of the textures should have been gravestones, and that's why I was taking them with these like creepy looking trees, because I thought that would be really cool, like, you know, creepy looking trees, gravestones, but then the gravestones just didn't come through, like, at all. So I don't know what happened. I was kind of choked about that. It wasted like quite a bit of the roll on just like random photos that didn't have the double exposure effect at all. But some of them worked out really well in the second roll, like this one of my buddy, and then this one of my other buddy. We were doing like volleyball and got some cool shots there. The first roll was super fun and interesting, even though it didn't work out at all like I had planned or expected, but no complaints. I mean, I did get some really cool shots out of that first roll, but the second roll, I only got like, you know, 2 or 3 shots that I really liked, and the rest were all just kind of duds. And the reason for that is that a lot of them just didn't double expose. I really don't know why. Yeah, so that was a little bit disappointing. Another thing about this camera that I actually didn't mention in my review video of it is that it doesn't, like, it's got a number on the top that supposedly keeps track of how many shots you've taken, but it straight up does not. Like, it does not. I don't know why it's there. It doesn't work at all. It moves, but it moves like once every 6 shots, or it'll like skip ahead like 10, like you'll shake it and it'll like move around. So it's not reliable at all as a measure of how many shots you've taken, like at all. Don't even look at it, don't even bother. Maybe on some versions of the camera it does work, and on mine it's just like defective, I don't know, but no. So I couldn't really keep track of how many frames it had actually taken. There was also a few times that I took pictures with this camera and it would make a really, really odd noise. So I would take the picture, and instead of going like it does when the picture actually takes, it would go, I'd be like, you good, dude? And I think that sound was actually when the film was failing to roll forward, and that's why a few of them got screwed up in the first roll. And that's why I wound up being 7 frames off with my double exposure predictions. So that was kind of weird too. Overall, like, yeah, it's a toy camera. It's super unpredictable. And I did have a lot of fun shooting double exposure with this, but I'm not sure if it's like the best bang for your buck in terms of film and development costs, because you cannot plan it at all. But it was a fun experiment, and luckily the way that the camera rewinds the film, it leaves the leader, the film lead out. It'll leave this little bit hanging out. It won't rewind the film all the way back into the canister, and that makes it really easy to shoot double exposure. My good film camera, my Nikon camera, rewinds it all the way back in the canister. And so in order to get the film back out, you need a thing called a leader retriever, and those are quite expensive. They're like $35. So I have not invested in a leader retriever yet. I have gone to Bow Photo to get somebody to dig my film out of my canister when I accidentally rewound it. If you want to hear that saga, you can go check out my IGTVs on Instagram. I've been talking about my misadventures shooting with film a little bit there. But yeah, so this, you don't need a leader retriever if you want to shoot double exposure with this. So that is one of the pros that I found. Another pro with this camera is that a lot of the texture is exposed really nicely because it's f11, so all of the texture will be in focus. You don't have any blurry areas. And the pincushion distortion that this camera causes in a lot of images is also really cool in textured images. So those are my 2 pros. To answer my question, can you do double exposure with the Harman EZ35 camera? The answer is yes. It's easy to do double exposure because of the leader retriever thing. Yes and no, because it doesn't work 100% of the time, and it doesn't work at all like you'd expect it to. So that's my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this review I don't know if it's a review. I really hope that this documentation of my experiment was helpful or at least interesting to you. If you want more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every single Monday. And if you really like this video, you can hit that like button and you can comment down below to let me know what you thought of it. And you can hit that bell icon to get notified every single time I post. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, stay sharp, and don't forget to keep shooting. Bye, guys. Throughout this video, I have been drinking the key lime liqueur. I would say key lime liqueur is like an S tier liqueur. It's really similar to the limoncello liqueur. It's like kind of vanilla flavor to it. 10 out of 10. Would recommend if you're gonna get a liqueur beverage. They're all the same price, but like the limoncello and the key lime are like 1,000 times better. So I don't know why you'd buy like the berry one or the coconut one when you could buy these ones for the same price.